All right, Vishal, thanks a lot for those ideas. Well, just about 15 minutes left, so we have our guests joining us. Mayuresh Joshi and Amrish Paliga are with us. Sudarshan Sukhani, of course, has been talking to us. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Amrish, this move, how would you describe the fall that we have seen? Is it because of the whole Volkswagen issue and what's happening in Europe, or is this just nervousness ahead of policy?
Today's fall?
Today's fall.
I mean, I'm not really perturbed by this fall. Because if you see throughout the day the market was very stable, and we have seen this happening a couple of days back also.
Okay.
Suddenly you have considered selling. At that point of time the buyers back out, the market falls, and the next day we have seen a decent bounce back. And tomorrow, in case we see that it's 25 basis points, and in case it's a surprise 50 basis points, yes, you'll see a decent bounce back. I think the only way we could possibly break this level of 7750, 7800 band, which is a very good support, we could break that only if it is status quo tomorrow, which I really don't think it would be.
Okay, so not too perturbed by the fall. Mayuresh Joshi is also with us. Mayuresh, the stock of the day clearly is Tata Motors on the downside. I mean, it's down 6.5% now and has fast breached that 300 rupee mark. What do you do with a stock like this now?
Afternoon, Sonia. I think clearly all the issues surrounding China were getting reflected in the fall that we witnessed still today. But clearly, I think one is really expecting the prolonged slowdown in Chinese markets probably to continue. On top of that, there is again some buzz happening in terms of a European slowdown affecting luxury car sales there, and the North American markets probably getting affected by higher discounts coming through. However, I think if you look at the price fall and if you really assume the volume degrowth happening specifically in the case of China, and again one really assumes the EBITDA margin specifically at the JLR end to remain between that 14 to 16% kind of the band, and even if we do a lower working at 14%, I think it is more or less getting into the price in terms of the volumes expected to see sharp slowdown in China. And again, if one really expects some slowdown to come through from the European and the North American markets. But clearly I think new launches, their modular strategy, I think that's going to work positively for them over the next couple of years. Their Cherry JV in China again is going to yield results. The Discovery Sport, the XE, XF launches would hold Tata Motors in good stead. The domestic standalone operations are doing reasonably okay. So even though the analysts had cut down their estimates in terms of volume degrowth happening, both in terms of JLR volumes, China, and apart from that, clearly I think it is there in the price. So in my take, again, valuations looking extremely attractive. And though the stock might not give you stupendous returns from a year's time frame, I think if you have a couple of years time horizon, I think it becomes a very good entry point. So over the next 2 to 3 months, I think if one can really accumulate Tata Motors from the current levels, I think you will make decent return. But again, I think over the next 2 years, I think the next year possibly might see some amount of estimates being cut down, specifically in case of Chinese slowdown.
Okay, Amrish, that's the problem. A lot of people have been investing in Tata Motors since 400. Like, I mean, the all-time high was 500 and something.
It's nearly 600. Nearly 600.
605 was the all-time high.
Actually 600.
January 28th, 29th, it was nearly 600.
So at 400, it would have appeared 33% correction. Right. Now go out and buy. At 350, it would have appeared okay, 45% correction. Go out and buy. At 50% correction, it's not stopped. Where does it stop?
I really don't know as to where it can stop, because over the weekend I felt that possibly you could see levels of 280. I mean, in fact, it's come like close to that, but you really can't see as to where the bottom is. But then, I mean, one needs to clearly decide. As an investor, you need to decide whether it is worthwhile buying at these levels. Can I take further pain, possibly for the next 2 or 3 months? And if you can take the pain for the next 2 or 3 months, I think this is the time to actually go out and buy.
Because it's eerily similar to the last time we had a brutal correction in Tata Motors.
Yeah, but then just tell me, you just take out the research report of all the biggies. I'm not talking of the smaller brokerage houses. Just take out the research report of all the biggies.
No, I'm not giving any credence to that.
No. I mean, you just see in the last 3 months. Forget the last 6 months. Last 3 months. Take out the mean price. Each and every one of them had a price target. I mean, if you take the mean, I think the price target is 450, 500 plus.
No, that's because they've been invested, they've been recommending, and you become prisoner to your view. So let's put that aside. What I'm saying is that at current levels, what's the guarantee that it does not go even lower than that? I mean, if
there's no guarantee. Like absolutely, there's no guarantee when you're investing in a market. There's no guarantee.
Of course, there's no guarantee. But when you're talking about a blue chip stocks, Amrish,
right?
It's now corrected nearly 55%.
Yes.
At what point do you take a call that okay, the risk reward is now favoring me? Have you now reached a stage?
The risk reward was favorable even at 300 plus, even at 310, 320. The risk reward ratio was clearly favorable. But the question was as to how much more it can fall. I mean, can it fall to 250? And if it falls to 250, can you take the pain? If you can't take the pain, you should not buy.
But are there more pressure pockets for it? I mean, first we were talking about China. Now there are some talks that in North America the discounts have gone up.
Right.
And now because of this Volkswagen issue affecting Audi, which is its luxury counterpart, there are some fears that it could,
there are
head
fears.
into JLR as well?
No, there are fears. But is there a problem with JLR in Europe? In case Volkswagen and Audi and the rest of the luxury cars go under in the sense in case they face an issue as far as the branding is concerned and people really reduce buying their cars, won't it help JLR? I mean, that's the question to be asked. Okay. So from that point of view, I think at these levels, I think the downside is limited. It could be another 20 rupees, it could be another 30 rupees. I'm willing to take that pain, and that's the reason I'm buying.
Okay, that's the optimistic way of looking at things right now on Tata Motors. But just about 8 minutes left. The market is not showing any signs of recovery. It's still at that 7,800 thereabouts, still trading quite low. Sudarshan, the fall in Infosys today has been surprising. It was one of the strongest stocks, even in the previous weakness. Have the charts got damaged today, or is this a bit of a buying opportunity?
No, it's probably, I don't know about a buying opportunity, but there is no damage. IT stocks are going in a trading range at the upper end of that range, giving strong signs that they are likely to break on the upside. So, see, suppose the Nifty starts at tumble tomorrow, it starts falling down. IT will not go up when the Nifty is coming down, but it will still outperform. So I don't think it's a short sell. Whether it goes up or not tomorrow or in the next few days is something we'll find out.
Okay, we're at 6 minutes to close and it's going to be quite a negative day of trade. 250 points gone on the Sensex. Varinder is here to tell us about some buzzing stocks that he has observed in the last 10-15 minutes. Varinder, over to you.
Well, look at some of these new F&O entrants, all moving down today, whether it's Nagarjuna Construction, Bharti Infratel, BEML, all are moving down. The pocket which is looking good today is pharma, especially mid-cap and small cap. Look at Newland Labs, Krebs, Biochem, Anu Pharma, Claris Life Science, SMS Pharma, Netco Pharma. These are stocks which are still holding up. Some of the mid-cap gainers, companies like Rico India, Gammon India, FACT, Balrampur Genie, Rajesh Exports, Man Infra, Kitex Garments, Venky's had a super move today, Shimaru Entertainment as well. If you're looking at some of the small cap gainers, look at TGB Banquet up over 15%, CNC Construction up 20% for second day running, IFB Agro good volumes today, Lanco Infra, PG Electroplast, Cords Cable, Indian Hume, after that big order coming in, Blue Star Info, up over 5%, SSDPL, Ramki Infra, Singer India, Ashima Syntex, Shri Rama Newsprint, Deep Industries, Bill Care, you can count CMI, VM India, RA Drugs, Smartlink, Penar Engineering Building, which comes out of T2T. All these stocks are up anywhere between 5 to 15%. Some of the losers, you guys have been mentioning about Tata Motors, DVR, but one pocket which is a textile one like Nitin Spinners, Trident, these are one which are losing the steam today. Also companies like Saregama, Kothari Products, Saga Cements, Westcon Engineering, Castex are all down.
All right, Varinder, thanks a lot for that. Well, let's pull out the intraday chart of Havells. Nigel has just sent an alert. Let's see how that stock has reacted. That would be the intraday chart of Havells Power. Trading at the low point of the day, 2.5% lower is what we have. Amrish, any word on the charts of Havells?
No, in fact, I don't look at the charts, but then from the sort of news flows, especially, after they came out with that profit warning, until then it was, it was the darling of the investors, and there was concentrated holding. And once that happened, I think people have lost that, sort of a faith, like in this company. So I think after that, we have never seen those levels of 290, 300.
Okay, well, we have about less than 3-4 minutes to go before we close for the day. It's important to point out that a day ahead of the RBI policy, most of the banks are actually closing well in the red. So you can see all that list of big bank losers. You have Punjab National Bank that's down almost 0.3%. You have names like Kotak Mahindra Bank down about 2%, and a couple of them like Axis Bank as well that are in the red. Mayuresh, what would your view be on the pharmaceutical space, because that's been the big gainer today? Dr. Reddy's is up 5.5% on the back of the Nexium launch. Is there more upside there?
So clearly, Sonia, I think with the Nexium launch, additional incremental contribution can be anywhere to the tune of $30 to $50 million odd, and that would extend for the full year, even more than that. So I think the addressable size of $5.2 billion, clearly with 4 players getting in, I think there is decent room for Dr. Reddy's with decent margins to be made at around 30-35%. Having said that, I think the other applications that Dr. Reddy's has, 73 odd applications in pipeline, which includes 47 para 4, 16 FTFs. I think that will hold them in good stead. So I think margins at around 25-26% should hold for Dr. Reddy's, and though there are expenditure is quite reasonable in terms of sales at around 11.2-11.5%. I think it should start yielding results. So our take is that we have an accumulative rating on the stock. The stock has moved up substantially since morning. So clearly, I think one really needs to hold on to Dr. Reddy's. I think the Nexium launch will add to the EPS of Dr. Reddy's. We're still working with figures of 190 rupees for FY17, Sonia. But clearly, I think if further launches surprise us in a positive manner, I think those numbers can get re-rated. So I think clear hold on Dr. Reddy's at this point of time.
All right, 2.5 minutes left for markets to close, so let's just do a quick recap. It's a bad day for the market. Whenever you have the last half an hour of last 1 hour with trade like this, it's bad news. And yes, the volumes were low, but they were not incredibly low. In fact, towards the end they picked up. Cash market volumes ended at 14,000 crores. So it's not that they're completely absent, the volumes that is. Let's talk about the stocks. Let's begin with stocks that led the market lower. Tata Motors clearly was the biggest loser, down about 6%, and my guess is it would have contributed the most as well to Nifty's decline. The other two big contributors would have been Infosys and Larsen & Toubro. Infosys down 3%, Larsen down about 2.5%. Sun Pharma was down 3% in trade. Coal India, Ultratech Cement, Vedanta, Tata Steel. So there was a bit of global factor playing out clearly. All the commodity stocks were down in trade today. Then you had some other names like Bharti Airtel, Bank of Baroda, NTPC. They were all lower in trade today. On the way up, the stock of the day today was Dr. Reddy's, and that too by quite some distance. In fact, this stock has now moved within 3% of previous all-time high. So 41.85 on Dr. Reddy's, really strong move. Idea was the other big stock, up about 2.5%. Adani moved as well on the day of its inclusion in Nifty. That stock was higher, and Lupin as well was higher by about 2%. Quite a bit of reversal in mid-caps.
Oh yes, a big reversal in mid-caps. Before that, I just want to make one point on Tata Motors, which is the biggest loser today. Although JLR has unequivocally said that they do not use any products to sort of cheat the emission test, the worry in the market is that diesel as an option itself may be now shunned because of this entire Volkswagen issue. And Tata Motors has invested a lot in an entire lineup of Jaguar Land Rover diesel cars. So that investment itself is being questioned now, because consumers may want to move to cleaner fuel options like electric cars or even petrol, and that's why not only Tata Motors but Bosch, that supplies diesel engines, Bosch as well was under pressure today, down almost about 200 rupees on that one. But in the broader markets, we had many stocks that stood out. On the upside, IDBI Bank was one of the stocks of the day. That one has had a big move this month. It's rallied 30% this month already. So IDBI Bank looking quite good. The entire sugar space looked good today. So Sri Renuka, Balrampur Chini were all stocks that moved up higher. Some cement names like India Cements were higher as well. PTC did well, up almost about 8% odd. You had Dishman Pharma that was up about 3% odd or so. And on the downside, Motherson Sumi clearly, Volkswagen has said that 21 lakh Audi cars have been impacted by the emission scandal, and more than 20% of Motherson Sumi's sales comes from Audi. So that stock has been under pressure today. Apart from that, you've had a couple of other names like Adani Power, South Indian Bank, Amtech Auto once again in the red today. Suzlon Energy and Ashok Leyland down about 0.4%. But let's take some closing strategies from our guests. So Darshan, tomorrow before the policy, there will still be a couple of hours to trade. What would the strategy be on both the Nifty and on the Bank Nifty tomorrow morning?
Well, the strategy is to be short in the Nifty and keep a stop at 7900. And for the Bank Nifty, there is no short selling as of now, because the Nifty is the one that broke down. Bank Nifty's trade should come after the policy. It would be silly to actually take a trade for 1.5 hours not knowing what will happen after that. So the Nifty is the right trade.
Okay, by the way, just pull out the intraday chart of Crompton Greaves. I know the market has closed now, but just to tell you the kind of decline that it had in last 5 or 10 minutes of trade, that was Crompton Greaves, down about 4% from the peak, down 3% overall in today's trade. Amrish, give us some stocks to watch out for, some stocks where you would be buying right now.
In fact, I'll not buy anything. In the first hour of trade, even tomorrow, I think I'll just wait for the policy.
Maybe the next 2 or 3 days, stocks where you will look to build position.
Next couple of days, again, it would be the PSU banks. Again, assuming that we have a 25 basis points cut or higher, I would still be looking at buying into the capital goods space, where again we have seen a very decent correction, especially both L&T and BHEL. Because again, like what I've been saying in the past couple of months, that I'm looking at the India story, and especially if you have noticed the sort of statements made by Mr. Modi during his recent trip. One of the important ones is that world will not wait for India. This clearly shows that there is a sense of there's a need for that hurrying up of the reforms.
Yes.
Which is clearly felt by the government, and I think over the next couple of months you'll actually see a lot of things happening at the ground level which you're not seeing in the last 12-14 months. So I think that itself should be enough to take the markets higher.
Okay, fair enough. Mayuresh, how are you approaching some of these banks now ahead of the big policy tomorrow?
So clearly, Sonia, I think the bias has always been in favor of the private sector banks, and our optimism would stay that way. Clearly, the asset quality issues are not plaguing them as much as the PSU counterparts are facing at this point of time. Capital adequacy is extremely strong, and even in terms of earnings growth, say for instance in Yes Bank, we expect earnings growth to be anywhere between 20 to 21% over the next couple of years. Axis Bank anywhere between 24 to 25%, and again I think we've assumed higher credit costs into our Excel models. So clearly the private sector banks is something that I look at, and I totally concur with Amrish. I think one really needs to wait for declines onto these stocks, wait out over the next 2 to 3 months. I think spread your investments over, but I think private sector is the place to be probably in the banking space at this point of time.
Okay, Sudarshan, a word on Sun TV's charts.
Sun TV is a far better stock than we could have imagined, the chart at least. It's making higher highs, higher lows, comes out of a bear market, is doing its own thing, and it's not correlated with the Nifty. So a trader should be looking to buy this stock on dips as well as on breakouts.
Okay, Mayuresh, didn't get a chance to ask you about Motherson Sumi and how you would approach that one now after the Volkswagen issue.
So clearly, Sonia, after the last discussion that we had, I think it was again very apparent that one really needs to wait and watch. The spillover effects in Europe will take a huge hit, as I mentioned earlier as well. The domestic business, again, Sonia, as I pointed out last time as well, I think the copper prices are down, the discounting is at higher levels. Depreciation in rupee also hits their line by 9 item on the P&L. And those structurally, as I mentioned even last time, I think the order book is very decent. I think they've been able to hold on to margins, especially on the SMR and the SMP side, as far as the European operations are concerned. One really needs to understand how this whole saga will point out, whether the utilization levels that one is really witnessing across their plants in Europe and Southeast Asia, whether that will take a hit. And again, I think the management commentary in terms of how the business outlook might look. So I think wait for numbers to come through, wait for further clarity to happen on what probable actions are being taken by regulators across Europe, and then probably we'll take a call on the stock.
All right. Any other mid-cap ideas that you would be recommending for the longer-term investor?
So Sonia, I think we're still sticking out with our ideas that we've been liking for a length of time. So I think you just mentioned, I heard Anand mention Havells, but Bajaj Electrical is something that we're continuing to like. I think E&P has done exceptionally well for Bajaj Electricals. We're expecting huge turnaround to happen on that segment over the next couple of years in terms of EBIT performance, where our belief is that EBIT profit should actually come to the tune of 84 to 90 odd crores for FY17, which will reflect in margin expansion. So again, Bajaj Electrical from an EV to sales perspective looks extremely attractive attractive at this point of time. Similarly, Inox Wind, Sonia, I think sufficient capacity is already in place. They're doing a decent amount of capex to ensure that the new order book that starts coming onto the system is catered and addressed to. And again, valuations are looking extremely attractive. But we believe, I think the new order book wins will actually entail higher margins, and margin expansion of around 17.5% to 18% should actually start coming through by 517. So I think something like an Inox Wind is where our belief is over the next 1 year should give excellent returns even from the current levels.
Okay, Amrish, what a difference 2 months makes. Coal India 2 months back was the strongest stock in the market, right, kept hitting lifetime highs, and today it's hit a new 52-week low and grinding even lower as we speak. What's gone wrong here? Because it's clearly a story that's gone wrong in last couple of months. And is it, even from a dividend yield point of view or any other point of view, is it a good buy now?
I think it's a good buy at these levels. I think the talk in the market is basically about the international prices falling, but Coal India clearly was selling coal at a major discount to the international prices, so I don't think that should make too much of a difference. And especially now with the sort of focus which is there on power going ahead, I don't see too much of an issue as far as Coal India is concerned. And also the e-auctions, which should be taking off, decently well, where the margins are much higher. I think the only other issue which I think Coal India would be facing is possibly a higher sort of a taxation by government because of environmental issues. I think there was a talk of that. And at the same time, I think they would be investing a much higher amount in capital, like in the asset creation, than what was earlier envisaged. I think these two statements came in the last couple of weeks, which I think has affected it to a certain extent.
All right, gentlemen, we'll have to leave it at that. Thanks for joining us and taking us through the last 1 hour ahead of the big RBI policy tomorrow. The market closes with a deep tone of red. The Sensex is down 250 points. The Bank Nifty is under pressure as well, and the Nifty has given up